Assalamu alaikum. So one of the things that over-reliance on scholars has produced in us is an over-reliance on symbols as opposed to results. Let me explain what I mean. So if you read something or you listen to a video, for example, and it's completely logical, it makes sense, it ties with the Quran, but it might be a new insight, it might be something that other people haven't talked about, but it's completely logical and ties with the Quran, right? The first thing someone's going to say is, well, who did this person study from? Who did this person, who preceded you in that? Who gave you tazkiyah? Who gave you ijazah? So instead of looking at the results, instead of evaluating the information, we're, we're always taught to evaluate the symbolic value of the person. So the person doesn't have symbolic value unless they were invested with that by someone who's deemed to be a higher authority. And I think that's a very bad thing that's happened for our minds and our way of thinking. Instead of being taught to critically evaluate information, we're always taught to evaluate the symbolic value of the person over the information, even when the information doesn't make sense. So if you hear something from someone that's deemed to be a scholar and it doesn't make sense to you, right? The argument against you will be the symbolic value of the person, not the information themselves. It will be, well, who are you to question this person? They study with this person, they study with that person, and they studied this and they studied that. So I think we have to remember what Allah tells us in the Quran about obeying, or about what He says about the people of hellfire, what they will say. They will say, وَقَالُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّا أَطَعْنَا سَادَتَنَا وَكُبَرَاءَنَا فَأَضَلُّونَ السَّبِيلَ. They will say, our Lord, we obeyed our leaders and our great ones, and they led us astray from the path. Now, with that said, I just want to address this objection that someone might have. They might say, are you saying that scholars are leading people astray? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we are leading ourselves astray by not learning to critically evaluate information, because at the end of the day, scholars are human just like everyone else is human. They make mistakes just like everyone else makes mistakes. So we benefit from them. I just started a series on my page about the book An-Nizam al-Qur'ani, the Quranic system. And in my other videos, I've referenced, in my lives and classes and stuff like that, I've referenced scholars that I've benefited from as far as Arabic, like Ibn Faris, some aspects of tafsir, like at-Tabari, etc. So I'm not in any way saying don't benefit from people who have studied and benefit information from them and points from them. I'm speaking about the over-reliance on the symbolic value of a person over the logic of the information. That's what we need to learn. We need to learn how to critically analyze the logic of the information over the person. Salamun alaikum.